welcome to the Karen Mitches podcast.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for inviting me.
Today we have Michelle Sui.
Hi guys.
How have you been?
I'm all right. Just doing comedy and working.
Sorry, can I get you to slide a little bit
sure.
over? And okay,
Sure.
perfect.
I'm just working, trying to get through the Canadian winter, like everyone.
I know, it's like we're officially March today, and it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, today's like -10.
Fuck.
But it is March. That's good.
It is.
We got the worst of it.
And
I
like
to think.
earlier this week, everything was melting, and I was like, "We're almost here. We're almost here."
Mm-hmm.
So that felt good.
Maybe it's just the last weekend that's like unbearable. Who knows?
So I know at one point you lived in Boston.
Yeah.
How was that down there?
Boston was like a really fun city. Toronto is like much more corporate compared to Boston, because Boston has like 50 universities and colleges, and some of the best ones in the country. So it just has like a young vibe to it. Where I lived is like really by MIT and Harvard campus, and we live in a dump, but like there's always like grad students living, because it's a 3-bedroom, so I always like grad student roommates.
Ooh.
So it was kind of interesting to like see what they're up to, what they want to achieve in life.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah. So that was fun. That was the more noticeable part. Like it's a younger, more college-y town.
Is it also like, I kind of think of Boston as like almost like tougher?
Yeah, it is kind of wild because it's not as big of a city as Toronto. That reminds me, like, this conversation reminds me of that movie Good Will Hunting, because like South Boston, Dorchester is on the same line as Harvard, MIT, but imagine like the Young Line, but
yeah,
they're the same line, but then Dorchester and South Boston are just like tough working class towns, and that they have such pride of being from Boston.
Yeah.
And there's the douchebag part of the line where everybody believe that they're better than everyone else, but then pretend they're not. That the very pretentious part is the same subway line. So that movie is actually kind of true. Obviously, you won't have like janitors solving MIT equations every day, but like the dynamics is there.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like that's such a great like Hollywood, anything in like a movie that brings together like
the class divide, but then somehow they touch each other. There's a comedy there.
Yeah, for
drama
sure.
There somehow.
Yeah, definitely. Did you get started in comedy when you were in Boston?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was really fun. So I was living in the same apartment, and at that time my 2 roommates are both musicians, and I had the same corporate job as we were talking. So every day I would come home and I would mope around the apartment and say, "Oh, life has no meaning." And they always gig, so they're like, "Oh, like you should just do something more creative." And since they gig all the time, they're like, "Oh, this bar that we gig at has like comedy open mics." And since that's the only thing that you need no talent and just can start right away, maybe that's the thing that you can try. So they both went with me to the bar where they gig at that has a comedy open mic, and I did like okay, like very mid, but I'm like, oh, this is fun. Like I'm doing some outside work. Yeah, that's just how it started. And like Toronto too, you just kind of go to open mics, and then you meet new friends, and then some people like your style, and then they book you on shows. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, I love like the social part of comedy, like a bunch of idiots and then pulling more idiots in every day.
For sure. And I felt like maybe I'm just always on the periphery of the central social group, but I feel like nobody's trying to like backstab or anything.
Yeah,
people are like trying to help you out. Obviously not like intensely, but like
it's kind of like, I don't think anyone really has much, like nobody can give you the kind of like attention and like jobs that you want, but people can sort of like, people are very willing to show you how they got whatever they have and how you can do it too. It's kind of like, oh, I know how to get booked on a show, I'll show you. Like,
yeah, exactly, because there's no real opportunities. That's why Nobody is being bitchy about it.
But I also think there's like, it's interesting because like in a comedy scene, like you get people who will go very far, but like there's not like separate streams for people who've been somehow like identified one way, like and you don't have to like pass any class. You can just show up. Like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
you could be a homeless guy who's like, oh, I want to go into that bar to keep warm, and you're there. You can get on stage.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, and I feel like nowadays, because the media landscape is so divided, everyone is trying their own things. At the end of the day, we just want. I feel like the only way to get there is to be internet famous, and that's like basically what we're doing right now. So yeah, it's not much competitive in Toronto. I think it's more like people are helping each other out.
Yeah.
I feel that way. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like
No,
not-
I do think that, because I think the older model would be like, you need to get on like just for laughs. So there's only so many spots. So I'm in competition with you. But now it's like everyone's trying to create their own audience online. So you can like bring other people into like the stuff you put in your content, and then they bring you into their stuff, and like everyone's just trying to get their own audience. So if you get a big audience, that doesn't take away from me in any in some way
no,
that
not at
could
all.
give to my potential to form an audience.
Yeah, yeah, not at all. But it's just as hard to make it. But then I feel like because we're not trying to impress like 5 gatekeepers anymore, we're trying to impress the algorithm.
Yeah, no, but like if someone goes, well, this is what I think you should do with your comedy, you can just be like, and I don't care.
True.
Whereas like in the past, I think people did have to sort of like fit into certain boxes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, there's like maybe 10 bookers or 5 bookers in Toronto that really matter a lot. But now I feel like people are just like, no, if it's this venue doesn't fit my style, then I'll go somewhere else
Yeah.
where I can create sketches from my bedroom or something like that.
Yeah. I always think like when I'm like, I go to the Real Jerk, which is just like the basement of a jerk chicken restaurant. But it's like, it's a great venue, and it's, you know, there's a big audience that goes there. You can have a great night performing there. It doesn't have to be something sort of like,
Oh no, yeah, it doesn't have to be a comedy club. I feel like most of my gigs are done in like random restaurants. Much more so than like an actual comedy club.
do you think like, I don't know, like your material, like what it's like, because I would have seen you over like the last 2 years, but I think you've been around for like 7?
Yeah, like I think 8-9 years, mostly in Boston and back in Toronto 2-3 years. Yeah, you're right.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Do you think you found your voice quickly, and it always was kind of where it is now?
I think when I started, like Amy Schumer was like the biggest star. She's still the biggest, one of the biggest stars, but I just thought like a woman talking about dating and sex so abrasively, so fun and so brave. So I talked a lot about dating and sex, and I guess at that time I wasn't as interested in like philosophy or geopolitics. But I think the last 8-9 years, or the last, say 5-6 years, because of COVID, I feel like something has changed in our zeitgeist. Like I feel like people are just in general a little more depressive, and it seems like the future is not as bright anymore, or uncertain compared to like 6-7 years ago. So now I like to do more like social commentary about how the pedo lizards are ruining our life. But at the beginning, I was really like, I thought she was like so funny. I thought she was so great, just talking about like sex so
Yeah.
upfrontly. Yeah.
I recently like rewatched Trainwreck because I feel like, I don't know, it's almost like if something is really big in one decade, the next decade you almost have to hate it because we're on to different things.
Right,
And so
yeah.
I did have a kind of attitude about her and that like time period that was like, oh, I'm so over it. But then I was like, this is still fucking hilarious.
Yeah, yeah, that was a really good movie.
But there's something about when you do kind of more like social commentary or political stuff that's like very refreshing, almost like, even though it's like kind of, I would say, darker than most people.
Yeah.
Like I feel like a lot of people who are kind of political, they're like, oh, we need to change this. And you kind of have more like,
there's no point. We're all going to hell.
It's almost like we have the same politics, but you've already given up.
Yeah. I feel like more and more people will move to my camp, to be honest, of just completely defeated. The only hope we have is just talk about it. You know?
Do you feel like being in like a corporate job makes you more nihilistic or less? Like you'd think it would almost like insulate you and you'd be more likely to be positive.
I think deep down we have a feeling that either what we're doing is not very productive, not contributing to the world as much as we hope to, or maybe it's yielding harm. No, I'm obviously not. I don't work for like Lockheed Martin.
Yeah.
Or anything. But like for example, I'll give you an example. Right? So my I was just like depositing some random cash, and then my in my bank, because I work for a bank, and then the financial analyst, the front desk said, oh, you should deposit something to invest in this fund, like a cash fund. I'm like, sure. So basically she just introduced like basically the S&P 500 companies that this fund has, right? Like I already see like British Petroleum, I already see like Lockheed Martin. I already know those companies are extremely evil.
Yeah.
In a way. But when she said, well, it will be guaranteed like 10%, I'm like, okay, sure. I didn't even like say, oh, hey, can we like maybe switch it up to like a greener company?
Yeah, because it's like there's like an overall system, and like the system itself isn't doing well. Like, so if you're part of it,
yeah,
you're just like invariably
doing like minor harm.
Yeah. Like there's no ethical consumption under capitalism kind of idea.
Yeah, for sure. For employment, we obviously just are just trying to survive. I don't hold any fault in myself or like anybody contributing to the matrix, but just like an inkling in me that I'm feel like maybe I'm not doing anything positive with my career.
Yeah, like I think there's a sense like you want to have a culture where it's like even if you just like your job is small, it's part of a bigger system that's good.
Yeah.
So just by doing what you're supposed to do in a day, you're part of your community, you're helping. But it's more like now everything is sort of like tainted, tinged with evil. Mm-hmm. So that general sense of like goodness in a day can't be had unless you're like delude yourself into thinking somehow the system is okay, or you take some kind of small rebellion that you imagine is helpful.
Mm-hmm. Like maybe volunteer locally or dedicate a part of like a small fund to contribute to like a local not lottery like kind of charity.
Yeah,
I feel like that's the only thing we can do at the moment.
And I guess some people, like if you have a job like you're a social worker, like that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's still like heroes in the world. Yeah,
teachers, those are but I work in a big corporation. I'm just like a tiny cog in a big corporation.
Yeah,
it's really hard to feel that contributing positively to society.
What about like comedians that you listen to? Like, do you find like you're drawn to more like nihilistic people nowadays?
I mean, yeah, I listen to a lot of comedians. I find many topics interesting, but my all-time favorite, I don't know if you have heard of it, Bo Burnham's Inside.
Yes.
So that's a very nihilistic comedy special where he basically said, there is no future. Future is in the past. we're just living out the rest of it.
Okay, I haven't listened to that whole special, so I'm not fully, but I do get like a song here and there from him that's very,
Yeah, so it's kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah.
But that's 2020. I feel like the world has gotten worse since then. Maybe people have gotten out of the the pandemic era, but now there's so many unstable situations going on in the world. Yeah. I don't know.
Did you hear what's it called? The like border czar told it's like coming down on Boston.
What?
They have like a position in America that's called something like the border czar, and he's like especially involved in like cracking down on immigration like throughout America.
Oh.
But then he just vocalized like that he's sending ICE to Boston to target them specifically.
I felt like I've seen some videos online of they are just dragging people from their homes to be, like interrogated in Boston.
Okay.
I have seen
That's
that.
crazy, right?
Yeah, because Boston is not close to the border at all.
Do you think like Bostonian, like do you think, because you lived in America for a decade?
Yeah, a little less than that. Yeah,
a little less.
That.
Okay. Do you feel like they're going to turn, or they're just going to keep going with their like leader's present view?
I think because for people like me, right, I've already given up. Or even George Collins is my idol, and he said he doesn't vote because he felt like both parties are like a neoliberal parties that are entrenched with corporations, so he doesn't really feel like it matters which lizards he votes for, or like which lizard puppets he vote for. That's how I felt. I feel like more and more people maybe will turn to that belief, but is that good for like, because you still have a democracy, you still have an active vote. I don't know, like turning to my belief that either party or neoliberal corporation puppet is good or not, is helpful or not, because I'm not like trying to have a violent revolution as well. So what is my position? My position just to live out the rest of my days being extremely depressed. I don't know. But in general, the bipartisan fight, the fight between the Democrats and the Republicans are still very well and alive. It seems like people hate each other with their entire fiber.
So nothing really changes. It just becomes
really
the same fight in the same sort of like almost like three camps. Left, right, and just people who can't. They're like, nothing is gonna help.
Mm-hmm. But the camps are still fighting for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good times.
But yeah, we're like second month into the Trump presidency. I feel like a lot of MAGA camp are already feeling betrayed by Trump. So let's see how this 4-year will roll out.
I was surprised like his first presidency didn't turn people off of him. So then I'm like, I don't even know what could. Like, I found the last 2 months wildly stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Canada should join the European Union?
I feel like Canada has the potential to be like a Scandinavian pro plus, right? We're resource rich, and we have like public healthcare and things like that. That would be nice. Like I felt, we have like a more of a social safety net modeling based on like a northern country.
Yeah, I always feel like Canadians get obsessed with America because they're richer than us, but they're richer than us because there's like more than 300 million and we're only 30 million. So it's like, if we want to let in like a few 100 million people, we could do that, or we could look at countries our own size and just like forget about America.
Yeah, I support like Canada modeling itself as like a Denmark.
Yeah.
I feel like we can do it. We have oil, we have we have fishing, we have everything they have. much more land too.
Yeah, fuck Denmark. We'll be 4 times the country Denmark is.
Yeah.
Have you traveled a lot lately?
Lately, not a lot.
No.
How about you? Do you love traveling? Do you usually spend all your vacations traveling, or?
Yeah, I try to travel as much as I can. Like last year, I went to Austin and a little bit in Europe. I kind of want to go. I feel like going forward, I kind of want to go play, like have my vacation be like doing open mics and stuff.
Like just go to like Comedy Centrals.
Yeah, because like I guess once I started doing comedy, it'd be like, well, I'd still go on a regular trip, but while I was there, I'd like, so I did like open mics in like Berlin and Warsaw last year.
Oh, that's really cool.
But that was still like the majority of that trip was still just like me sightseeing. But now I'm like, I don't know, I just kind of want to do like I don't know, like just a weekend in Chicago just to do mics kind of thing.
Yeah, that's definitely. Did you find the New York comedy scene and Austin comedy scene different from the Toronto comedy scene? If so, how are they different?
Okay, so Austin felt like a totally different world, like the Wild West, and there was just like so many people who had just like picked up their life from like anywhere America and moved to Austin, and there was like it was a lot more male, and it was a lot more like, I don't know, like unhinged, and it was kind of like the hangout vibe was really fun, but also like
a little manosphere.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, I was talking to like people who like just are unhinged but fun, but like I kind of feel like that would be a weird city to live in. Like you'd have like 4 times as many stalkers as you'd pick up in the Toronto comedy scene.
Sure. Toronto is such a safe city compared to any major American city.
Yeah. And then the US, like New York felt like the dream scene. And I think it was like something like I don't know, like people doing mics around New York are more likely to be kind of like established somehow. Like they moved to New York to like work in television. It felt like a lot of people who had like figured their shit out at home and then moved there. So it felt like a bigger, but kind of still the same vibe of Toronto, where you have like different kinds of people.
Yeah, I feel like New York is probably the city to be if you want to pursue stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Austin is more like a new hub for men. I'm saying that if you're a woman, of course go as well. I'm just but I was there as well, and I felt very similarly.
In Austin?
In Austin, it's like a Rogan and Bros.
Well, it kind of is like he moved there during the pandemic and was like created like a new capital. But it's like it's drawn like, but it's also, I guess, like I don't want to disparage it completely, because I think if you don't have a lot of money, going to New York might be too big of a step for a lot of people. So I think going to Austin, more people can go there and like pay rent and just get by and be immersed in comedy. If I was American, I'd probably go to Austin. I feel like,
yeah, actually, when I was in Austin trying to get on Kelton, which I didn't, but I stumbled upon a few comedians that I met through doing comedy in the States and doing like comedy festival. They were living in New York City, and they now moved to Austin, and they're both girls. So it's just like a really new thing, and there's a lot of excitement. It's not as set up, but like people are excited to be there. Yeah,
I was talking to one woman who's from Minneapolis, and she's like married and has a family, but she tours as a comedian, and she just does like regular trips to Austin, so she knows everybody there. She's not living in the city, but she has like the right kind of connections to benefit from being there, and she was happy with it too. She did seem to have a lot of like safety stuff in place. She said, like, if she goes to a mic, she just tells the person hosting it, like, she can't wait till the end because there'll be too many men and she'll be scared. I was like, way to go. She's, like, creating her own priority.
Yeah. Have you traveled? You said you were in Berlin. That must be like I just imagine it being like super alternative.
Yeah.
If I have to like picture it.
It was weird. Like, I guess the mic I went to was run by an American who was living abroad. And then a lot of, like, I felt like it kind of made me think of just when you're traveling in general, a lot of the time you don't meet Germans, you meet other people from all over Europe and other countries who are traveling in the place. So it felt kind of more like an international mic. And then when we did the mic in Warsaw, they were really similar, except there was like a couple Germans and then there was like a couple Poles, and they kind of like hold more weight in the room because you're like, when they're on, you're like, okay, this is what their comedy is.
What local comedians think.
And yeah, I felt like the German comedians were a bit more odd, whereas like the Polish comedians were maybe a bit more like small town, like
so just they talk about local,
like not more? Like a little like making fun of immigrants or like like a little bit, I don't know,
like comedy from 10 years ago almost, right?
Yeah, like what you'd expect from like a smaller community, or yeah.
But that's cool that you travel for comedy all the time. I used to travel a lot before I started doing comedy very seriously. Then I think pandemic happened, and then I just felt like I'm still very interested in comedy, but I felt like since things has changed so much, now it just seems like you need to build your own audience online. And that obviously traveling to other cities to feel how their creative minds think is very important. But at the same time, you have to somehow create content by yourself.
Yeah.
And that doesn't depend so much on like making it in LA, making it in New York anymore. It's good and bad. Like you can try to make it in Toronto, but at the same time, like you don't know. Like at least like before, you have to like impress the Weinstein of comedy. you know who you have to impress, but now it's just like you're completely on your own.
Yeah. What's your experience been online so far?
Last year I started posting seriously, and I found like very minor success, but I completely don't know why certain videos go viral or not. So my strategy this year is just to post often. But so far, honestly, from January, I was like, I'm gonna post like 3 times a week, post a joke at least 3 days out of a week. And after 2 months of trying very hard, I think I lost 200 fans. So now I'm very discouraged. But like, I don't know. I have no idea. I guess just post often and then be authentic, and hopefully people that like you will find you.
Yeah.
I really have no idea.
It's kind of crazy because it's like, normally you think, well, if you work, the harder you work, the better you'll do. Yeah. But it's like, it seems like, no,
you might lose more fans. People might be like, oh, I forgot I was following you. Unfollow.
Yeah. Like, my main thing that I put online is this podcast. And I feel like it's been really good for me in terms of Toronto comedy. Like, I'm getting to know people and they're getting to know me. But I feel like I don't even exist on the internet because there's not, like, it's almost like if you're following me, you're part of the Toronto comedy scene, and there's no one, or I met you in real life. Like, there's not a sizable group of people just out in the world who want to watch me interview other Toronto.
It's not, you're an amazing interviewer. It's only because Toronto comics are also nobodies.
I need one of you fuckers to get famous, so people are like, go watch your old.
You're an amazing interviewer, and you're very professional. It's really just because Toronto comics are also losers. So. Yeah, in terms of my viral videos, they're just like really short clips of
Yeah.
jokes. But I have no idea. As I said, this January 1st, I'm like, I'm gonna work hard, and I I did, and I lost 200 fans.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Mm.
I also sometimes I think like, yeah, maybe I should just like post a joke. But I don't want to give away like my regular stand up. I want to kind of like keep that till I've crafted it better and I can put it out more formally.
I think you can still do that because I have seen people who are getting more serious opportunities. They just swipe it. They just delete everything they have online. But before they were
Oh,
posting
okay.
so much. Like the girl I met in Austin, it seems like she was getting some opportunity after moving to Austin. So before she had like 2,000 posts and all like just clips of comedy online. And
As she's working it out.
yeah, like recently I checked and she went on Kyoto and she did good and maybe she's getting some opportunity. And then now I check her Insta, she just deleted almost everything. She just has like 100 posts now.
That's cool.
So I feel like you should just post because we're nobodies, right? Like, who knows which one will like gather some audience.
Yeah.
And then if at one point you felt like you were put out a special and then you don't want people to have already heard the joke, then just delete, just do a clean.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but again, you're you're hearing from a person who tried very hard to lose a lot of fans. So I obviously don't know what I'm doing.
I am like a wide-eyed newbie and I will take advice from everyone. So
But yeah, the few viral clip I had was just jokes.
Yeah.
Just jokes from different stand-up sets.
I like your jokes because I feel like I'm even like I'm never expecting them to be what they are. You know, and like I never know what the punchline is.
Yeah, I think if you asked me when I just started comedy, that woman probably wouldn't expect that I just tell like almost extremely doomsday doomer joke anymore.
Yeah.
I guess just how I felt at the moment, and I felt like I must not be alone, so that's why I like to tell it, and it seems to people relate to it. So I guess a lot of people felt deep down that
Yeah.
there's something dark and sinister happening there.
It's funny, like it is like as frustrating as stand-up can be. I feel like it does reward authenticity. Like if you just say whatever's bugging you, it's always bugging other people too, and then now you have people who are like in it with you.
Yeah, and I'm so happy that even though I'm not doing very well online, but I'm so happy like everybody get to put out their authentic voice.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's even worse when everything's so expensive, nobody can afford houses for like millennials and Gen Zs. And then you have like people like Ben Shapiro's like S&P up like 2,000%, and then we're doing amazing and we have the highest GDP. I feel like a lot of people felt gaslit if that's the only voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't reflect their everyday life at all. And then their everyday life is just kind of like a deep helplessness.
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes like I think people take comedy like really on the nose and they're like they treat it like it's a TED talk. So if you're saying something like politically nihilistic, like I don't know how to explain it. It's like the comedy is to laugh at. So if you're feeling like the world is shit, say that it's shit and we can laugh about it. It doesn't necessarily mean like you're saying like give up.
Yeah.
Like it's
sure.
like you have to express how bleak you feel and then it actually makes other people feel less bleak because now we're in it together.
Yeah, I that's what I hope that the 5 people in the audience sometimes felt a little validated. Really, that's only what I hope.
Yeah, no, but I do feel validated. I feel like the first time I saw you was maybe was that the Black Sheep comedy? I don't know. I saw you on stage somewhere and I was just like, I felt like tremendous relief. Like, and it's weird because it is like bleak.
Yeah.
The things you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I like. I mean, life is shit, like wall to wall. But like, I just want people to like feel a sense of relief for the however minute I have on stage.
What were like? Were you you said you were surprised when like clips went viral?
Yeah.
Did it make you nervous at all?
at that point I was like, am I getting famous? But not so much nervous, just like kind of excited. But then soon you realize right now we're in a landscape that you have to go viral every week to even have an audience. So then I'm trying to I have a really bad habit when it's like a clip that doesn't have a lot of views but people comment negatively, I'll go like actually argue with stuff. I should stop that. Like people are like entitled to their opinion. Why do I have to convince people? If they want to tell me something, that's totally fine.
What's like a kind of comment that you'd get on a video?
I think the last one that I kind of went into it was about a maid, the assisted suicide, and I can get why the negative comment was saying. They were saying, well, I didn't tell the absolute truth. It is a joke. There are different venues if you seek psychiatric help. But he felt that I was spreading misinformation. But I felt I was just trying to say that most people don't have family doctors. Most people are struggling with mental health but cannot find help almost immediately. I felt that was my point instead of trying to like spread information. So I was I was a little sad that's how they felt. But I right now I'm just trying to change that. It's not even a popular clip. Why do I need to like defend myself? They can have a different interpretation.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess like it is frustrating. And I think I don't know.
Yeah, I think because I did talk about like real topics, so maybe people felt it's more social commentary than comedy. But at the end of the day, I still just want to make people laugh. It is still comedy.
Yeah.
It is not. I'm not telling news segment.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say because like I don't with my own stuff. Usually if I'm being political, I'm not actually trying to persuade anyone. It's like I'm near a topic, but I'm saying something stupid about it. Like I make a joke about saying like we should fuck incels, but I'm like, you shouldn't. That's like the exact opposite of what I feel. Like I'm bothered by incels because I think they shouldn't be like demanding sex and refusing to be an active participant in society because they're not popular with girls. But like it services the joke to sort of say like, oh, let's like build an incel army by fucking them and now they'll do our bidding. It's a joke, right? But when you're being silly, like you don't know how, like I feel like people get it. But I think also if I had a big enough audience, a lot of people wouldn't get it because the public is stupid. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think they're more emotional than stupid, but I get what you mean.
Because I'm part of the public, so it gets to make sense to say them. But yeah,
we are stupid. So
yeah,
I react emotionally too. Like it's
even if someone's saying something as a joke, it triggers the part of you that takes that seriously, as well as the part of you that takes that humorously. And if you see it isolated, you won't know if the person's being ironic, so you may just come at it like directly. Like, do you feel like we have a responsibility or it's just like shit happens?
I think if you're a comedian, your only responsibility is to not incite violence or spread hate. If you felt your intention is good, I don't think you need to hold yourself to like a news anchor integrity at all. I don't think so at all.
And I would say even like, I think, I don't know, like in the investment world, like we have this idea it's like that your duty is to the client, like that the client doesn't get ripped off and that the client benefits from your product. So like, I kind of think about it the same way. It's like you have a duty to the audience and the audience came for comedy. So like it's basically like, I need to make them laugh, but also not start a riot. Like, don't do anything unsafe to them. So online, that would be like spreading hate. In the theater, it's like, don't yell fire in the
Oh yeah,
crowded
for sure.
place. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that for sure, 100%. But sometimes maybe people interpret my joke as hateful or whatever. Then in that case, I don't think comedians should be held responsible.
Yeah.
Because there's 8 billion people in the world. I'm sure there are many people find me very unpalatable.
But it's funny because like I feel like you're a very like smart, well-meaning person, but then it is true like if you have more nihilistic comedy, you're more likely to get people like mad at you or like reaching out to debate you, whereas like there's other people who aren't really like trying that hard in life, but just the nature of their comedy doesn't bring that on, so they don't have as much like ugliness to contend with.
Yeah, and also I felt like because we're moving into the G2 era, and which is like America and China are like the two major player in the geopolitical sense, which means a lot of anti-Chinese propaganda in the West, a lot of anti-American propaganda in China. So I feel like sometimes when I talk about like military-industrial complex or like gun control, people would say, then move back to China or whatever, or like if you don't like it, go back or something like that. But I feel like I've never waged slave in China, so I kind of funded all the wars they were. I mean, I sort of funded the Afghanistan war. I kind of funded the NRA. I have like less say about Chinese politics. First of all, I don't live there anymore, so I can only as a observant of what China's doing. Secondly, I worked in the States for like 10 years, so my tax dollar actually funded all the things I was talking about.
And like it's if you're a Canadian and you're
Canada,
I don't know, if your focus is on criticizing the Chinese government, it almost feels like maybe you haven't really moved here yet in your mind. But once you spend enough time in this country, you're going to be critical of our systems. Like it's sort of like the point of being in a democracy. You should be thinking about like, is my government bombing a country they shouldn't be bombing?
Right,
like,
exactly. Yeah, plus my tax dollar is buying like the sticker on the bombs or something. The shoelaces of the boots on the ground, honestly. I'm less funding whatever evil stuff China's doing.
What year did you move to Boston in?
2012, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so you were there like I'm kind of thinking the weird time to be in the US would be like 2004. Like
oh, for sure. Yeah. I feel like that's when the American empire is going on like a irreversible decline by fighting terrorism. Like
I remember going to the US for it was either a wedding or a baptism, and it's in Pennsylvania, and I'd been there like a million times. I know my cousins, I know like, you know, what it's like to go there. And Bush had just served his first term and there was an election. I'm like, oh, they're gonna vote him out because like obviously he's
a warmonger.
Yeah. And my family was like 100% George W. And I was like, what? And like the whole feeling in the air was crazy. And I was like America always feels a little bit like bizarro Canada. Like it's Canada, but just something's different here and you can't put your finger on it. But there I was like, oh, I can put my finger right on it. This is crazy. And then like when they went into Iraq and they were like, I don't know, like looting Mesopotamian treasures and shit. And I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. My tax dollar fund.
Thanks, Michelle.
So I feel like I should have some say. But I'm just really trying to pose and say things authentically and not try to spread hate or misinformation. Of course, that's not my target. And then try not to, like, people are entitled to their opinion. I would try not to react anymore.
Yeah. Do you still have family in China?
Very few. Yeah.
Do you feel connected to it?
Because I grew up in China, so yeah, definitely I felt that's a huge part of my identity. I just haven't been back for a long time.
What region are you from?
I'm from like the most famous city, Wuhan, China.
Are you serious?
Yeah. That's where I grew up.
Is that, I guess like the hometown pride took a hit there.
I mean, it's kind of weird because before nobody, even though it's like a small town of 10 million people.
Yeah.
In China standard, 10 million is just small town. Oh, a medium-sized city in China.
Yeah.
And no one has heard of until like recently. And everyone.
Oh, fuck. Now you'll never come back from it.
Yeah, that would be like the only thing it's known for now.
What were you known for
Beforehand?
to the extent that you were known?
In China, it was known as just like the biggest city in central China. So before there was like a lot of transportation by boat. So there's a major river going through it. So it was kind of known as a transportation hub. And it was kind of industrious because it's 10 million people, right? If you have 10 million people, many people are going to be involved in the manufacturing industry as China goes. So that was what's known in China. But I know what's known for in the West.
Yeah, like because you wouldn't have had tourism, like people going.
No, I think it would be good now. It dies down. Maybe they can do like a ground zero tourist group. But I don't know how Chinese government will be happy with that kind of.
But you can go to Colombia and tour like the gang spots that were significant in there, and there's a lot of weird tourism around. My sister and her husband were in Papua New Guinea, and they have like a lot of like World War II remnants there. You can tour these like deeply underground like hospitals and shelters and things. Like,
yeah,
it's dark, but it's also fascinating.
Yeah, maybe more people will go. China has an extensive high speed rail system, so it'll be easy to take a rail from like Beijing and Shanghai to go to any part of China. So maybe that's.
Did you visit at all once they started building that?
The last time I was in China was like 2014. So only parts of the China had high speed rail connecting each cities, but now it's very extensive.
Yeah.
At that time, it's only the major city has like high speed rail between them.
And now how extensive is it?
I think from Beijing to Tibet, every city that's more than like 2 million people, there's a high speed train station.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and they built that in the last like 10 years. Say what you have to about the Chinese governance, but they're really good at infrastructure building.
Yeah. I think it's that. Yeah, I would love to have a high speed rail. They're always like saying we're gonna have it.
I doubt it. Like, let's see the Eglinton West. I saw the Toronto comedian posted the TikTok about how the Eglinton West line turned 15 years old or like 14 years
it's so
old.
bad.
He's like, soon you'll be able to vote.
Aww. And then I'm very excited about the Ontario line. And then it's like, if you read about it online, it's just the comments are so negative because everyone's like, no, so that'll take 30 years.
For like the initial phase. Yeah, it's and Trudeau announced about like the Montreal to Toronto line. Yeah, most of the comments are like, right.
Yeah. And like for me, obviously I want to go be able to get quickly.
I don't care. I just want less expensive eggs. That's like two kinds of comments. Nobody says yay.
Yeah. I guess for me, it's like it would be neat to be able to get quickly to Quebec and Montreal, but my family's in London, Ontario, so it's like, could we go the other way? But if it takes us 2 decades to go one way, you know what I mean?
That is true. Do you think there are more traffic between Toronto and Montreal, or like inside Ontario, judging based on your like traveling locally experience?
I don't go north of Toronto a lot. Like I'm never like really heading to like Ottawa or Montreal. I think the numbers are there that it could be like from Quebec City to Windsor. Like I think that whole corridor is like half our country and it's really busy. But yeah, I think like even if there's something like it's good, like we have the numbers for it and it's worthwhile doing it, there's still ways to fuck it up.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see if Eglinton West will Maybe you will turn 18 and then be functional.
Yeah, it'll finally get its shit together when it graduates high school.
Do you travel a lot inside Canada? Have you looked at other comedy scene in Canada?
You know what's crazy is I have not done comedy. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I haven't gone anywhere else in Canada. How about you?
No, I haven't really done comedy anywhere else. But I lived in Montreal for a year, so.
Did you like Montreal?
Yeah, it was a really beautiful city, and it's much cheaper than Toronto. But the winter is a lot harsher.
Yeah, I was there one time in like February, and I didn't really think about that. And we were right. I don't know. I just felt like the water coming off the river was like the air was like so fucking cold, and it shocked me because I just thought, I don't know. I was younger then. I think I thought winter was just kind of like the same everywhere, and I didn't know people were having like a worse time of it.
Yeah, like the French and English Canada divide, it also is surprising. Like they legit don't like English Canadians, the French Canadians, and I guess the English Canadian also have some animosity against the French Canadians.
Yeah,
except Trump is uniting us together.
Yeah, it's funny to find out in life how much the French Canadians don't like us and how like comfortable they are being open about it. Like, but yeah, and then it's weird when Quebec is on our side with anything because that's just not been a reality in my lifetime. But yeah, I guess like the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, maybe Canada will finally be like united for the next 4 years.
That 4 years where we got along.
Yeah. How do you feel about Doug Ford winning in a landslide? Like, I mean, it's not really surprising.
Yeah.
I feel like people just have a lot of animosity towards the Liberal Party because of what happened in the last 8 years.
Yeah. I vote NDP, and like I will sometimes vote Liberal, but usually it's like because I'm voting someone out or something. And provincially, I can almost always vote NDP because like in downtown Toronto, there's
always
NDP like we all love NDP here, and we can never convince people outside the city that is good. And
you cannot.
It's such like a commonly disparaged party that I don't even know how to begin explaining it to people. I'm just like, just give us a shot. I don't know. So yeah, I guess like the member of parliament I voted for is back in office, and I think she's gonna like hold it down for us. But like also, Ford just does shit that another, like if we're gonna have a conservative leader, like I always want someone like John Tory, who was like the head of the PC party before he became the mayor, and like at least, I don't know, at least somebody like that is sort of like mentally. Like ripping up the bike lanes to me is like super crazy and unnecessary. It just it's spiteful and it doesn't help people. So if we're gonna have a PC, that's who I want. But for some reason, like on top of our province leaning conservative, it also leans into this like specific type of conservative, which isn't. I know we're not Trump, and I should be grateful we don't have somebody like that. But it's still like. Why cronyism and why this like weird mentality where we can't like research anything and have a smart answer on it?
I guess we'll see. We'll see PC winning as landslide in like October. I feel like that's the most likely scenario at this point.
Yeah, and we're getting a spa on on the lake, so
yeah, that's all good.
You didn't need that science center.
maybe we can rename some shit to like a Canadian Gulf or Canadian lake.
Yes. Well, someone was saying if America can call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, then we could call the Gulf of Alaska the Gulf of Canada.
Yeah.
So
let's do that.
I say yeah.
At least I'll have all the Canadians call it.
Yeah, let's like Lake Michigan, call that Lake Ontario Part 2.
I like that.
I've loved having you on. I want to take a second. You're on your socials.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You're Michelle Sui.
Yeah. My last name Sui.
Okay. And there's something weird that happened with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just telling you that how when I first started posting, I was posting most of both on Instagram and TikTok. But TikTok, if you search for Michelle Sui comedy, it will just go to a suicide prevention hotline. It's just you are not alone. For the longest time, if you search Michelle Sui comedy, it will just tell you you're not alone. And also, my jokes are kind of nihilistic, doomerish. I'm like, okay, maybe figure me out.
I like if someone's typing that in. Yeah, they should find you instead.
But now they fixed it, so you can find me on both TikTok and Instagram.
Sweet. Okay, thanks so much.
No problem. Thank you for having me.